Hi everyone, the small engine mechanic here. Today we are going to be replacing the number 2 head gasket and installing a stator for the charging system. If you haven't seen the compression test and leak down test on this engine, you can click up here. So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's remove the air filter. Next is the filter housing base. You will need a 10mm socket for this. Remove the 2 carburetor nuts. Then the base. There are 2 hoses that will need to be disconnected. The fuel line to the carburetor is next. As long as the hose is higher than the tank, it won't leak. Next, using an 8mm socket, remove the ignition coil bolts. Then remove the flywheel bolt. Then the blower fan will come off. Make sure to put the flywheel bolt back in loosely. Then put a pry bar under one side of the flywheel and apply some tension, and using a dead blow hammer strike the opposite side. The flywheel should pop up. Remove the bolt and lift off the flywheel. Look out for the flywheel key. Inspect the magnets for movement or cracking. There should be the same size gap between them. Now we're going to remove the valve cover. You will need a scraper bar and tap hammer to remove the cover. Unplug the spark plug. Using the 10mm, remove the 4 intake manifold bolts. There will be an O-ring gasket that will need to be removed. Using a 1/2-inch socket, remove the 4 head bolts. I bumped my gun to a lower setting. There we go. When the head comes loose, you can remove the 2 push rods. Check them to make sure they are straight and not bent. Now the head can be removed. You can see where the head gasket blew through at. Let's pull the gasket out now. There you go, head gasket failure, verified. This one has the old part number on it. Using a 3M soft gasket remover, remove the old remnants. For very thick deposits, use a razor carefully. Try to get as flat as the surface so it doesn't scratch it. Checking for warping. Clean the surface of the block too, and the valve cover mounting surface. We will be using the Kohler cylinder head gasket kit, 32841-2S. All the parts you will need is in the bag. If you removed the head guides, replace them at this time. This is an updated gasket with reinforcements all the way around the cylinder. And on the opposite side too. You can see the difference compared to the old one. Install the new gasket and make sure everything lines up. Then reinstall the head and bolts. I am running them down, but not tightening them yet. I run them the rest of the way by hand. Then snug them down evenly. Then using a torque wrench, set it to 212 inch-pounds. Cross-torque the bolts. Always zero your torque wrench when not using it. Then torque them to 370 inch-pounds. My quarter in torque doesn't go that high, so I will need to convert it to foot-pounds. To do that, simply divide 370 by 12. 31 foot-pounds sounds good to me. Again, remember to cross-torque the bolts. Next, loosen the rocker set screws. Now we have to work on the stator, since we need the flywheel to rotate the engine. Using the 8mm socket, remove the 2 screws holding the stator. Then remove it. This is the old one compared to the new one. Don't worry about the cable difference. We will fix that. But first, let's test them. Setting your meter to ohms, measure the resistance. I'll have the results on the screen. You always want to test the new one too. I would hate to get everything reinstalled just to find out the stator was defective. Compare the lengths. And cut the new one to size. Cut back some of the wire cover. Then strip the wires about 3/8 of an inch. Using the connectors in the kit, crimp the new connections to the wires. Using a pick, release the old connectors from the plug. On Kohler engines, the stator wires go on the outside holes. These are AC voltage, so it doesn't matter for polarity. The middle space is for the 12-volt charging wire. And we're ready to install. Installation is removal, but in reverse. Torque the stator screws to 78 inch-pound. Plug in the 12-volt charging wire in the middle spot. Make sure to plug the cable into the voltage regulator. Make sure everything is done. Install the flywheel, making sure to line up the key slot on the shaft. Then insert the key and tap it down with the tap hammer. Torque the flywheel bolt to 55 foot-pounds. Back to the head. Install the push rods. Just turn the large nut enough to hold the push rods in place. Using the flywheel, rotate the engine in the starting direction and watch the valves for movement. Once both valves have compressed and came back up, make sure the intake valve is the one that moved last. Insert an extension into the spark plug hole and continue to rotate the engine until the extension stops moving outward. Boss looking for the valve clearance specification. My turn. And got it. 0.005 of an inch on the intake and exhaust. Intake is done. You can adjust the larger nut to apply slight tension to the feeler gauge and tighten the inner set screw to hold it in place. Reinstall the ignition coils, but don't tighten them down yet. You will need to push them away from the flywheel, then snug them down. The cylinder kit comes with 2 new intake manifold gaskets. Replace both of them. There is a groove in the manifold that holds the gasket. Then replace the intake bolts. Snug them down. Using 2 10,000 feeler gauges, install one on each side of the coil while the flywheel magnet is in the center. Then loosen the coil screws and the coil will move to the magnet. Apply slight pressure to help hold the coil against the magnet with the feeler gauges between them. Then, snug the coil screws down and tighten them to 45 inch-pounds, then do the same for the opposite one. Then torque them to 66 inch-pounds, then final torque of 88 inch-pounds. Rotate the flywheel 360 degrees to make sure it clears the coils. If the magnet hits, readjust the coils. Install the governor plate screws. Exhaust pipe with a gasket from the kit. Outside screw can be reached with the electric ratchet. Inside is the old way. Apply some RTV sealant to the valve cover and install the screws. Cover torque is 120 inch-pounds if you wanted to know. Install the filter base, hoses, and fuel line. And now, it's time to do a quick test. Had to adjust the choke. Now it's smooth. Reinstall the heat shield. Plug in the spark plug. Hose bracket. Remove the flywheel bolt. And install the fan. Run the bolt back down. Retort to 55 foot-pounds. Install the blower cover and tighten it down. Fan guard just pops back in. Fuel pump screws. Filter cover. Starts and sounds good. Let's test the charging. Test out good. High RPM and idle test. Awesome. One thing left to do. Blades spin good, engine is strong again. Well then, I guess you know what that means. It looks like another one is good to go.